Hey everyone, this is Kieran. Today's exercise is looking into some more specifics on breathing flexibility. So specifically today we're going to be looking at the lower rib cage, so this area here. So if you've had any previous back injuries in the past or things like respiratory infections or broken ribs, that kind of thing, you might find that getting this flexibility back is going to be really useful for you. With any injury, the first thing you're trying to do is usually to calm things down. Once you're past that stage, you want to start trying to restore normal range of motion. And normal range of motion can be relative. So everyone's normals can be a little bit different depending on things like previous injuries in the area or their age or activity levels, things like that, or chosen specialties. For example, like a rhythmic gymnast is going to have a different normal flexibility baseline than say someone who just enjoys camping and like doing overnight camps. So one of the central things that most people though need to be able to have is an adequate amount of breathing flexibility. Now that might change a little bit depending on the activities you do in terms of what your normal is, but it's one of those things where if you can improve the flexibility, you're going to improve a lot of other variables. And the reasons for that we go over a little bit in the breathing for activity video. Things like that perfusion, so getting breath down into the lower area, so you're getting increased perfusion, so it's that exchange of oxygen and CO2 with your bloodstream. And then that's going to improve things like your work capacity. Anyway, so with breathing, a lot of the time people think about, when they talk about diaphragm breathing, they're thinking about down here in the belly, all right? So they're like, okay, breathe into your belly and you're breathing with your diaphragm, right? So belly going forward. The thing about that is first that if you're not breathing with your diaphragm, you're probably on life support. So, diaphragm breathing is all breathing to some extent. How can we maximize the diaphragm though? We need to get its attachment points to be working together. And so the diaphragm attaches to the lower rib cage in a circular area. So if you looked up from the bottom, which I'll show in a picture here, that it looks like quite circular, and then from this angle it would look like a dome, okay? And then it also attaches down onto the lower back around sort of L2, L3, and I'll have a picture showing that as well. So that means that one end has to be fixated so the other end can move. That's how these muscles work. So either the lower back is fixated and the diaphragm is creating that dome where it flattens and then comes back up, or you've fixated at the ribs, at the rib attachments, and they're stiff, and there's a lot of movement happening at the lower back, right? Not saying that there's a bad or right, but one is going to promote more movement in one area, and one is going to promote more movement in another area. And so you can imagine if that diaphragm is a dome and it's flattening out like that, you can see how the circle here is getting wider, it's getting bigger, right? The diameter is growing. So if you're breathing with your diaphragm fully, what you're going to see is, because of the rib cage joints with the transverse processes on the back, so the costovertebral joints, the lower rib cage versus the upper rib cage moves a bit differently with breathing. The upper rib cage is more that pump handle, which we'll cover in a different video. The lower rib cage we're going to talk about today is more of a bucket handle, so it goes sideways this way. So if my hands are here on my ribs, my lower rib cage, when I breathe in, I'm going to do a couple breaths, my hands are going to go sideways as I move, they're going to go out as I breathe in, and they're going to go in as I breathe out. Okay, so if you can watch the hands. Right, so you see that movement happening, okay? Now, where people get a bit stuck is taking that movement into different activities. Maybe they can do it at rest, maybe not, right? Maybe they can't even do it lying down. And we've got a video for that, whether it's on your tummy or on your back. But you also want to be able to take this skill into lots of other scenarios. So that could be walking, because that's a low-level activity. It could be, to some degree, a little bit of running, although that's going to incorporate other parts of your rib cage as well to get more oxygen in and CO2 out. Instead of creating a fixation, because if the fixation's there, then you're getting more movement at that lower back. Again, not that that's bad, but if the focus is on promoting optimal perfusion, you want to get the lower alveoli, those lower lungs, lobes to fill up. And so that diaphragm has to descend and flatten out, which means those lower ribs have to bucket handle and go sideways. Okay? So it's very straightforward in that if you just put the hands there, and if you can't breathe sideways, then you need to find an easier version. And usually an easier version just means a position with more passive support. So that could be laying on the ground, on your tummy, on your side, on your back. It could be leaning against something. So if I leaned against this, that might make this easier. And then over time you take that support away. Standing is even less support because it's just your feet. Whereas here I have feet and my sit bones, right? Walking is even less supportive because there's moments of being on one leg. And then running, there's moments where there's nothing touching the ground. So again, even less support. And you have to generate all that tension within. So just to give you some ideas on how to approach it, and really important flexibility to regain. This one's about presenting that idea of lower ribcage flexibility. I've got the other videos demonstrating exercise variations to it, but take that principle, once you get the floor-based stuff, that same principle, can you breathe sideways, this bucket handle breathing, in all your other activities? And you'll find that when you're breathing more here, you're not going to get as much movement here. It's a little bit different if you're completely relaxed and laying on your back. You're going to get more of that belly breathing. That's more of a normal patterning that happens based on positioning and gravity, etc. But day-to-day stuff, we're seeing a lot more here and a lot less here, especially when you're upright. So give that a go. I promise it will not be a fruitless endeavor, and it's really going to change aspects of how you move, maybe more in a subjective way than an objective, but really worth developing as a skill or regaining as a skill and integrating it back into your regular activities. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.